Hi, I'm Mayor Teresa Tomlinson, and I think one of the biggest challenges we had during my term as mayor was dealing with a recession. We had a prolonged recession. Of course, the nation was suffering through that, but Columbus took a particularly long time to recover, and there's some structural reasons for that. But what was important is that we faced the very real challenge of having to completely remake our budget. We also had the additional stressor of about the time we were coming out of the recession, naturally, we had the very real stressor of Fort Benning having the drawdown from the Middle East and also the sequester coming out of Washington, D.C. Fort Benning, of course, is a 40,000 person employer, and anything they do to reduce their economic activity related to the federal budget, of course, has reverberations throughout the Columbus community. So about the time we had made some tweaks to our budget, we got hit with the double whammy of the effects of Fort Benning, of the drawdown and sequester. So all of that led to a real necessity to completely rethink our budget. We started with something that had been a political third rail in Columbus. Nobody had ever considered, or certainly verbally voiced that they had considered looking at our pension. And that's because so many folks get so emotional when you start talking about that. However, we were able to convene a commission, a mayor's commission, and for 10 months looked at the things we had to do to completely reform that. In the end, it was a unanimous decision by council. Our stakeholders were on board. Their incredible benefits were continued, but in a much more efficient way that ended up saving taxpayers $18 million thus far since 2013, and in the first 10 years, by 2023, we will have saved the taxpayers over $50 million. And so you're talking about some really seismic changes with tremendous benefit. Some other things we did: we had healthcare reform, which meant we had to start looking at how we provided healthcare for our, not just our citizens, but the citizens who work as employees in Columbus, Georgia. And so we began by having a health and wellness center, trying to find preventative care to keep our people from suffering the effects of chronic diseases, things that we might be able to head off at the pass. That has had a tremendous effect. And then otherwise, restructuring healthcare, we were saving between $3 and $4 million, and perhaps even more in the very near future because of some changes we made. So again, it was being in some old budgetary habits that people really didn't understand why we were doing it that way. We just always had done it that way, and bringing a fresh set of eyes as mayor to say we can do this, and having frankly, the courage to stand up to things that had been political third rails and say, even if there's a political price, this is worth it, it must be done.